What's up, Ada Nation? Welcome to Dapp Central, your home for everything blockchain and crypto. Today, we're taking a second look and diving a little bit deeper into governance on Cardano. Now, we're anticipating the Chang Hardfork to take place sometime in either late Q2 or early Q3 of this year, followed by the official Cardano constitution being drafted and hopefully ratified by the Cardano community. Now, this will essentially turn the governance in the direction in which Cardano develops directly back into the hands of the growing Cardano community. As always, if you guys do enjoy updates like these, I would appreciate you if you could smash that thumbs up. If it's your first time stopping by and you want more content like this, breaking down Cardano and governance, consider subscribing. And last but not least, if you have any questions, then make sure to leave them down below. Now, I'm going to quickly recap what I highlighted in the last update, which was just breaking down the roadmap for governance. So there's going to be an interim phase where we're going to have an interim constitutional committee as well as an interim constitution, which will be a draft or an early version of all of the rules and just all of the sort of laws, quote unquote, that the Cardano community believes Cardano should uphold or should stand for. Now, following that, we're going to have the introduction of the Chang Hardfork, which will be the first step, laying down the foundation for governance here in the ecosystem. Following that, there's going to be an upgrade that's going to provide all of the full-fledged features when it comes to voting on Cardano. Towards the end of the year, there's going to be an annual meetup in Japan, followed by the official constitutional convention, where the Cardano community will have the ability to either ratify or deny the actual constitution. So do keep that in mind. Again, check out my original video. It's about 15 minutes long, breaking down the roadmap, but then also highlighting the 4 roles that are now available when it comes to governance here in Cardano. As a brief recap of those particular roles, we have the delegate representatives, or the DREPs, which act as elected officials within the Cardano community. Now, anybody can sign up to become a DREP, but once you do so, you're able to gather stake from ADA holders that want to delegate to you as a DREP, right? And you're therefore representing those members in your decision making. Now, while we're on the topic of DREPs, I want to highlight 2 predefined options that allow for automated voting behavior. The first is known as the auto abstaining DREP, where it states this is a predefined DREP that allows ADA holders to delegate in a way that does not participate in governance and is not a part of the active voting state. What this basically means is that this particular DREP allows for you to still stake your ADA and to earn your traditional ADA rewards without any of that ADA going towards the voting power when it comes to ongoing governance actions. Second, we have the auto no confidence DREP, where it states this particular DREP allows ADA holders to delegate in a way that is considered part of the active voting state and votes yes on every no confidence action while voting no on every other action. What this basically means is that if you delegate to this particular DREP, it's going to vote against or vote no for any ongoing actions, but it's also going to vote in favor of any motion of no confidence. So if you don't believe that the Constitutional Committee is doing their job and you don't want to have to sit around and deny every other vote or action that comes across, you can go ahead and use the no confidence DREP. We also have the Constitutional Committee, which will be a committee from the Cardano community. You will have to be nominated. However, once you are available or once you're made a member of the Constitutional Committee, your job will be to make sure that any proposal that's submitted, again, keep in mind that anybody can submit a proposal as long as they hold ADA, that those abide by the Constitution. So that's the second role. The third role are SPOs, or stake pool operators. These members here have been the backbone of the Cardano community for quite a bit now. But if you hold a Cardano stake pool, if you operate a Cardano stake pool, you'll be able to use the stake associated with that particular pool, and you can actually also go ahead and vote. Now, one thing to keep in mind about the SPOs is that they have a limited range of what they can actually vote on. So as an SPO, you can't necessarily vote on every single action that comes through. However, as a DREP, you have the ability to vote on any of the 7 actions that are available. Now we're going to be diving into what those 7 actions are here in just a moment. And then I wanted to quickly add here for the Constitutional Committee, do keep in mind that there is a term associated with that. So it's not something that you're able to jump on and you're there forever. There are terms associated with that, and it's going to be a rolling rotation of members being added and removed to the Constitutional Committee. Now, at the very bottom there, we have delegating ADA holders or just traditional ADA holders. And do keep in mind that you don't necessarily have to delegate your ADA. So if you don't delegate, your votes will not be counted, or you won't be able to actually vote or participate in any of the governance actions. So do keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and jump right on into the actual actions, which will be able to be submitted as governance rolls into the Cardano community. So the 7 actions are as follows. The first is what we call a motion of no confidence. Again, this ties back directly with the Constitutional Committee. Their job is to make sure that proposals abide by the Constitution. However, if the majority of the Cardano community believes that the Constitutional Committee isn't doing their job, you can create an action to basically launch a vote of no confidence. This means that the Cardano community has no confidence in the ability of the Constitutional Committee to do their job and to vote in a correct way. That's the first option. Now, that particular action can only be voted upon by a DREP or an SPO. You could imagine that if the Constitutional Committee could actually vote for that particular action, they would most likely vote yes for themselves to keep the Constitutional Committee going forward. So that is one of the first actions. Again, really level setting the field here. In the event that the committee isn't doing their job, SPOs and DREPs can vote for no confidence. Now, let's say that that particular vote does take place. Any actions in that particular epoch are automatically dropped, given the fact that the general community doesn't have confidence in the current committee. Now, let's say that we do have a vote of no confidence. Following that, what we can do is create a new action to add Constitutional Committee members. Now, this also allows for the Cardano community to actually change the quorum percentage, which is the amount of votes or the amount of ADA that's needed in order for a particular vote to be ratified. So keep that in mind as well. Very similarly, the DREPs and the SPOs can vote for new members to be added or removed from the Constitutional Committee, but the members on the existing Constitutional Committee cannot vote for themselves. So again, keep that in mind. The third action is the action to update the current constitution. And this is available for voting by DREPs and the Constitutional Committee. So if you're a stake pool operator, you cannot vote for this particular action. Right below that, we have the Hardfork initiation action, which allows for just that initiation of hard forks taking place here on Cardano. So for example, something like the Chang Hardfork in the future will be decided by the community. Now, everybody is able to vote for this particular action. So that includes DREPs, the Constitutional Committee, and SPOs. Right below that, or right next to that, we have the protocol parameter changes. So this is available for DREPs and the Constitutional Committee to vote upon. After that, we have the Treasury withdrawals. So anything dealing with the actual Treasury will have to go through the DREPs and the Constitutional Committee. Keep in mind, the Treasury currently holds about 1.5 billion ADA. Now, there's been a lot of talks about, for example, the adoption of USDC on Cardano. That would theoretically be an action that will be voted upon by the community. And if passed or if ratified, a Treasury withdrawal would have to be done in order to put those funds towards adopting or integrating USDC into the Cardano ecosystem. Again, DREPs and the Constitutional Committee can vote for that. At the very bottom here, we have informational updates or informational actions, which basically just create an on-chain record, which has no effect otherwise, and the DREPs and the Constitutional Committee can go ahead and vote for that. So as an SPO, there's 2 sections, again, adding or removing members to the Constitutional Committee and Hardfork initiations, but then everything else is essentially up to DREPs or the Constitutional Committee. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, and hopefully you guys are able to keep along with all the information that we've broken down so far. Now, there's a big section here breaking down all of the protocol parameters. They've been grouped into 4 separate sections. One labeled the network parameters, the second dealing with economic parameters, the third dealing with technical parameters, and then the last dealing with governance specific parameters. Now let's take a look here at the actual voting process very quickly. So we have an ADA holder who's able to build and submit a governance action directly to the Cardano network or the Cardano ledger. Following that, we have a DREP who's going to be able to vote for that depending on the type of action submitted. Again, not everybody's able to vote for everything, but the D-reps do get to vote for all 7 actions. Now, the Constitutional Committee will also get the opportunity to vote as long as it's not dealing with a motion of no confidence or adding or removing members to the Constitutional Committee. Third, we have SPOs who are able to weigh in as well, as long as it's dealing with a removing or adding of members to the Constitutional Committee or a hard fork. Now, once those votes are cast, depending on how they tally up and depending on whether or not they meet the quorum, that will dictate whether it's approved or denied. So in closing, as a part of today's video, I want to dive into a brief example highlighting 2 separate scenarios where we have a proposal that's submitted that passes with another proposal that's submitted that actually fails. So let's take a look here at the treasury withdrawal first, where we have the action being submitted on chain. And then we have the D-reps who are allowed to vote for this, voting 37% yes, 60% no, and 3% of them abstaining. So with the abstain, you're basically saying, hey, I don't want to vote yes or no. That is an option that's available there as well. Now, right below that, we have the Constitutional Committee stating that this particular treasury withdrawal in itself is not constitutional. So just that particular fact alone basically gets this a no. So because it's not constitutional, it doesn't align with the Constitution, it cannot be passed. Now, if it was yes, then it could be passed if the D-reps were able to vote in majority or in favor. But in this particular case, they still did not vote in favor. Now, the SPOs, because it's a treasury withdrawal, don't even have the opportunity to actually vote for this particular proposal. So the outcome, therefore, is the action is dropped. So it's not going to be passed. Again, that's because the Constitutional Committee voted that this was not abiding with the Constitution. However, if they had said that it was and the D-reps had voted in favor, then it would have passed. So that alone was the reason why this particular piece did not pass. Now, taking a look here at the right-hand side at the second example here, we have a protocol parameter change. Again, the SPOs do not get the ability to vote for that. The Constitutional Committee did vote yes, so this does abide by the Constitution, and the D-reps also voted in favor for this protocol parameter change. Therefore, it's ratified or confirmed, and that particular upgrade would take place depending on the epoch or the time period associated with that particular type of action. Now, let's say that the CC would have voted yes and the D-reps would have voted no. It would have failed because of the D-reps. But let's say that the D-reps would have voted yes and the CC would have voted no. It would not have passed because the proposal would not be abiding by the Cardano Constitution. So do keep that in mind. The Constitutional Committee basically has the highest authority as long as things align with the Constitution. The next majority is the D-reps, followed by the SPOs, depending on whether or not they can actually vote for that particular action. Now, at the very bottom here, it breaks down the different types of governance actions and when they're enacted. So motions of no confidence dealing with the CC are enacted immediately. Now, adding or removing members to the CC or changing the quorum size are enacted immediately. The updates to the Constitution are also enacted immediately. Hardfork initiations will occur at the next epoch boundary, very similarly with protocol parameter updates. And then treasury withdrawals are enacted immediately, and so are informational actions. So hopefully that gives you guys a better idea as to how governance will prosper here in the Cardano ecosystem, touching on number 1, the 4 different roles. Again, the D-reps, the Constitutional Committee, the SPOs and ADA holders, as well as the 7 different types of governance actions, which include motions of no confidence, as well as new Constitutional Committee members or quorum changes, as well as updates to the Constitution, hard fork initiations, protocol parameter updates, treasury withdrawals, and informational actions. I hope you guys found this to be helpful. I'm going to probably do one more video breaking down or diving into a little bit more detail, just the governance model. But as always, if you did find this to be helpful, if you just learned anything along the way, I would appreciate you if you could smash that thumbs up. If it's your first time stopping by and you want more content like this breaking down Cardano's governance in anticipation of the Chang hard fork, consider subscribing. And last but not least, if you have any questions, then make sure to leave them down below. That said, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.